was a good day to start all over again. I finally picked up all the pieces, and we tore and scattered in the moment. You know, my love, I'm still here. I never went too far away. So many feelings and so clear. I've been waiting for the chance to say I never should have said goodbye. I'll tell you why. You built me up to set me free. When my heart hit the ground, you were out there for me. You gave me strength, and now I believe everything that I know is right in front of me, all because of you. Tonight is my last chance to never let you get away. It's just my beautiful disaster. Your love can never be replaced. It's been such a long time. Never should have said goodbye. I'll tell you why. You built me up to set me free. When my heart hit the ground, you were out there for me. You gave me strength, and now I believe everything that I know is right in front of me. After all that's been said and done, after all that's been said and done, you're still my only one. And after all that's been said, it's been a beautiful disaster. Oh. Me up to set me free. When my heart hit the ground, you were out there for me. You gave me strength, now I believe everything that I love was right in front of me. It's been a beautiful disaster, all because of you. It's been a beautiful disaster, all because of you.
So let's pick back up where we left off. Holiday for Me was shelved, correct? And the band kind of did their own thing, moved in their own directions. And what was the impetus to get back together and start to look at recording music again as the Gufs? Yeah.
Well, I think at that point, we're sort of slowly creeping into like 2005, and my son was born in March 2005, and we had a little get together that Goran and Scott came down to, and we're sitting out on the back porch, having a drink, just chatting, and I can't remember if it was Gogi or Scoob who said, hey, what do you guys think about doing another Gufs album. And, at this point we're pretty well, well removed from the holiday experience. Goran already started doing his solo thing. And I think our last show that we played together was in 2004. Summerfest did this little knockoff. It was like their fall thing. They did it 1 year, and I think we were the headliner for that. I can't remember what how they labeled it, but it was something on Summerfest in the fall kind of thing. And pretty much between that time, we were just playing less and less from the release of Holiday until that last show in 2004. So by the time we were sitting around on my back porch, man, it's been a year and a half since we've possibly seen each other and hung out. And one of these guys said, "Hey, what do you think?" And we just started throwing it back and forth. Hey, it'd be a cool idea. It's been a while since our last album. We haven't really played, and let's see what we could do. So that really was the spark of it. And then I think shortly thereafter, I had one song that I actually, and I do remember this. So there's one song that I actually wrote, Leave This Life, on my own. And at that point, I just started to play around with GarageBand, which was like the precursor to Logic on my Mac. And so I recorded like a version of that, my own version of that, and played it for the guys. And, it was all this instrumentation and loops and stuff. And they thought it was pretty cool. And so we used that as sort of like the starting block. And then Gordy and I got together, and one afternoon, I think we hammered out Beautiful Disaster and Extraordinary in one session. So we were just sitting there and we wrote those two songs, and that was really what got the ball rolling. And I think anything with Gordy and I, as soon as we start writing music together, we both, it's like there's like these little embers burning, under all this ash. And then all of a sudden you realize that this fire is really easy to ignite. And I think the same thing that, brought us back in terms of reunion shows recently, and us writing all this new batch of tunes that we're doing now. We had pretty much the same experience then. We just, had one of my tunes and, gave it to Gordy, and we sort of guffed it, and then rewrote a couple new tunes, and then Gordy had a whole slate of tunes. And that really was like 2005. So I think we got into the studio by fall of that year, if I'm not mistaken, G.
Yeah, what was hard was to keep the momentum going, because we're still in 4 different, states, all career-minded, new paths drawn. So I kept on writing, and it became difficult to write because we couldn't be in the same room, and we didn't have the technology, or at least the ability to connect the way that we have been now. So it's a very interesting sounding record, because like Leave This Life and Beautiful Disaster that Dan helped write are, the typical tough sounding Guff songs. Extraordinary's got that up tempo groove that's pretty killer and contagious. And then a lot of the rest of the writing is a little bit more melodic and soft. It's still a great album, but it wasn't how we're writing these songs now, which feels more like the band versus me just saying, hey, here's the next song, because we don't have the luxury of being able to sit in a room together and write it. But some great songs came from the session, and then we asked Kevin Circa, who I was tight with at the time, to produce it. And we went into it big, recorded at his studio called The Laboratory, which was really cool, and recorded the drums up on the 4th, 5th floor of the vacant building, and set up mics everywhere, and really wanted it to be a killer record, which it's a great sounding record, but it wasn't what we were used to. It felt different. And I think for Dan, it was probably very different, because he came into the session with the songs that he wasn't in on from the writing his parts as he went, and he's in the studio writing these parts, which becomes a little bit tricky. So it's a great Gufs record, but I don't know if it's, it's not Holiday for me. We all lived it and breathed it and did it all together. This felt a little bit
more disjointed, but there's still a lot of great songs off of it. Someone Like You is killer. Leave This Life was one of my favorite songs that Danny wrote. A Beautiful Disaster, a song that we wrote, for the fans. And it has that ending song, which I love. Where do I go from here? That typical Gufs slamming closing song a la Ashes. So, different album. Sounded great, felt good, maybe a little bit too poppy for Danny's liking, but still a lot of rockin' tunes.
Interesting thing about the album was that it was our first album that we ever recorded in Milwaukee. So, up to that point, the first couple indie albums we recorded down on the west side of Chicago, and then came up to Madison to record Collide and the Atlantic album, the first Atlantic album, up in Toronto for the second. And then, finally making it back home to Milwaukee in 2005 to record Different Sea. So, but, as Gordy mentioned, I mean, it was definitely a different album for us, but I think thematically probably, one of our more, optimistic albums compared to where we were at previously. So, but I think all said and done, it's, it was a solid album. And I think for us, it was, compared to Holiday, you could see us in a completely different headspace than where we were, 7 years earlier. So,
but it was a very transparent album. And I never, when Goran mentioned a while back as to what Beautiful Disaster was, it started to make sense in my head. And we listened to it from that perspective, as far as, hey, we're back. Hey, we made some, not mistakes is a bad word, but
we made mistakes.
Well, all right. I was trying not to be insulting, but hey, we never left you guys. We're still here. We're putting music out, and it was a very, very fantastic way to kind of come back onto the scene. And and I never really realized from the perspective that Goran gave me that was what it was about. I thought it was another love ballad type album backed by beautiful bass and guitars and drums. And it was cool to listen to after hearing that. So I think it's one of the things we wanted to point out. Maybe it'll change someone's perspective. I mean, it wasn't an intentional, I guess, feel, correct? As far as bringing it back out in this way?
No, we just try to write great songs. So it's not like, maybe subconsciously was going on in our brains, but we just try to write great songs and hope that we can put 10 great ones on a record. We want every song that's on our record to be great, at least from Holiday From You on.
Prior to that, we weren't as discerning in our tastes.
We didn't know. I think now we know.
Well, but I think it kind of, when you're talking about, and we've talked about this again and again, and I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but when you talk about the craft and how you guys have evolved, it fits perfectly into how things have happened. The rise and falls of your whole career, and how people still are here. Just you look at things we're doing with live events and stuff like that. People just want to hear stuff. So to have you guys come back and release an album after we haven't heard from you in 6-7 years was a fantastic thing. And I think this album, like I said, I think if people listen to it after hearing this episode, you're going to hear it in a little different light. And I know I did. So I'm hoping everyone else does as well. I think that's a great kind of segue to finishing this up. But when you're writing this music, when you guys came back, how was the reception of the Gufs are back? They've got new music. Did you guys just kind of hop back into things, or was there sort of this slow progression back to it, or was it just kind of this instantaneous reception?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I came up on this phrase thinking about just sort of reviewing a lot of the things that we've been talking about, and the one thing that keeps popping to mind is sort of, we were always unintentional rock stars. We never really, we got together because we wanted to play music. We loved music, and we started playing, and things sort of grew organically to where we were taking things more seriously. But I think throughout the time, we didn't have a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan as far as what we were doing. We were always playing music because we love to. And I think for Different Sea, we came back because we missed it. We missed being together. We missed playing songs together. And as we started the recording process, and we knew that, we were, recording into 2006, and the album was going to be coming out later that fall. That's when we came back. We came back intentionally, like, all right, hey, let's sort of do, we didn't do a lot of pre-promotion, but we came back and we did, a set of shows at Shank Hall as sort of like a welcome back. And so I just remember, at least from that initial energy of those shows, that people were floored to see us. Those shows sold out really quick, and there was demand for more. So as we were finishing and working on that album, finishing it up in 2006, then the idea, it's like, all right, I'm going to step in. So I started managing the band, worked with Rick Gorbet out of up in Green Bay for event resources to start booking the band. So, that summer we had a solid slate of shows. We were just playing festivals in some colleges. We had a couple shows up in Minneapolis, Madison, Chicago. We weren't eager to get back on the road because at that point, I've literally have, a 9-month-old at home, and I'm in graduate school, like full force at that point. And, everybody else is on doing their own things and sort of getting ready. That was sort of the pre-familial Gufs, before everybody started having kids. So there's still a pretty heavy motivation to start playing. And so from 2006 on, up to the MSO shows in 2008 and up to our last show at Summerfest in 2011, we were playing regularly, at least a half dozen, maybe a dozen shows a year. But, we're sort of being very selective what we're doing. So it was a lot of festivals, a lot of bigger club dates and those type of things, until I think we just sort of hit a wall again in 2011. And then everybody at that point, I think the rest of the band was catching up. The kids were getting involved, and Scott got married shortly there before. And at that point we sort of, all right, everybody sort of went off into their own directions again to, another Guff hiatus. We were gone we took a 7-year break, and then a 14-year break after that, after in between records. And so now here we are again recording. So, but again, because the same impetus, just the desire to play together again, the desire to write music. And now we're having, I think, the most fun we've ever probably had. At least Gordy and I are having a lot of fun writing these songs, because it's been like a pretty steady thing for us since like March, when we first started working on Hero, I think. So
what's cool about the new songs is we write them, send them to the guys, and everybody just records their own parts in their own studios, or with Scott, our drummer. He's at Scott Starr's, the producer's place, and putting the drums down. And nobody's really too involved. Everybody trusts that the person to my right is going to write a killer bass line, and the person to my left is going to throw down some amazing guitars, and Scott's going to rock. So it's been cool, because when you get the songs back, you're like anticipating, like, wow, what did Scott do? Or wow, what did Dan do? Which is really a cool way to write, but you have to trust in the process, and you have to trust that the guys know what they're doing. And we're at a point where we know what we're doing. And I think it makes the songs a little bit different. It makes them interesting. And then when you throw Scott Starr in there, who's like this mad scientist, it makes them really kind of cool. Like, we're writing songs, I think, now that are probably way cooler than anything we've written in 20 years. So, and when you guys hear the new one, it's just amazing. It's probably one of the best songs we've written. It's just a rockin' tune. It's amazing. And the theme is, it's a story for now, which is cool.
So Different Sea comes out, and you guys obviously have come back together after very varied careers and kind of doing your own thing. There is a certain, as we've talked about in the past, a magnetism, not for lack of a better word, that is between the four of you, that it always kind of keeps you coming back. When we look at this album and how you guys think, well, it's time to start to put stuff out again, and we're kind of tripping back over some last questions, but it's brought you back to re-recording, One, Hero, things that are coming out today. I mean, what is it with you guys? I mean, what is the bond that brings the Gufs together?
Like when Dan said in 2005, when we got together at Danny's for the barbecue, anytime we're together, it's like we just pick up where we left off. It's never weird. It's never the distance with us we're okay with. And when we get together, it's like the best of friends just hanging out and being goofy and silly, but it's always musical in talk and in chatter. So it's just the best of friends that know each other very well and love each other and enjoy hanging out. When we're getting ready to practice for shows, like we're all excited to just go to Milwaukee and record and write and practice and stay at Scott's, and when we're done, watch goofy movies like Anchorman and just be a bunch of boys hanging out. And so yeah, it's just respect and love.
And and in the truest sense of it, I mean, it's a cliche, but it's so true. It's any band that has spent a number of years together or been on the road together, the concept of being like a band of brothers, a gang, a roving gang, it's really true, because you guys you're depending on each other, you're helping each other out, and there's all this sort of up and down that you're dealing with, whether it's professionally or individually. You're around these guys 24/7 for prolonged periods of time, and then the fact that Gordy and I are actually brothers, and the fact that Gordy and Scott were roommates and teammates, at the soccer team, I think that adds to that musical bond that we all share. And then the fact that we've been hanging around collectively, for me from age 17, you're talking about like teenage kids getting together and starting to play music. And so you have that teenage mentality that never leaves. It's like seeing an old friend of yours from high school. It's like you're just as silly and goofy as you were when you were 15, 16, 17 years old. And, we just genuinely enjoy being around each other. I mean, we make each other laugh, we have serious conversations, we make each other, think beyond what's going on. It's like we've got this big bond that has all these years together. And I think, like Gordy, you said, you get us into a room and it's just a free for all. You hear the pop, the tops pop, and then music starts playing. We start talking, start giving each other shit, teasing each other. So it's just a free for all. And I think now, as you're getting older and we've got kids, and all of us, Scott's a little bit behind, but we got kids in their teenage years. The fact that we could still get together and still do this and pick up where we left off, or pick up where we started 17 when we're 17 years old and 18 years old, 19 years old. It's a cool thing. I think now we're just at a point where we just enjoy it more and more. And the songwriting process is awesome, but getting together and rehearsing for a show, it's incredible. And when we started talking about those, Gordy and Morgan did those couple shows at Collectivo, I think in 2017, and then as 2018 rolled up, and the first one sold out, and then the second one sold out, and the third one sold out, and they're like, all right, we're only doing 3 shows. Then as 2018 rolled around, and all of a sudden it's 30 years since we got together as a band, then the conversation became, all right, let's the great misquote, what's that elephant? Okay, let's address the elephant in the corner. I'm like, well, technically he's in the room, but maybe he's sitting in the corner. I'm not sure. So we said, hey man, let's do this. And we were all excited. And the first rehearsal we got back together, it was just like fucking a bunch of kids, man, like you let them out at recess and they just go wild. So there's something about that, man. It's something that I think we'll have even when we're 60, 70 years old, 80-year-old men. if we make it that long.
But 30 years, when you think of 3 decades, I can't think of something that I like that I did 3 months ago, not let alone 3 decades. I mean, it is such a crazy concept when you think of especially fans, music, you guys. I mean, and you guys are definitely not the Gallagher brothers, thank God. But
we've had our moments.
Well, of course, but you're still here. I mean, Noel and Liam, you couldn't get them in the same damn room. But I mean, here we've had this great discussion for months. And 30 years is such a huge accomplishment. I mean, most bands don't make it past 30 days, 3 months, even a year. I mean, it is such a treat to be at least from my side and look back at this and what a great accomplishment that has to be. I mean, is this something you guys think of? I mean, I realize it's subconscious, but you kind of touched on that. But it's one of these things where, I mean, 30 years is it's a fantastic feat, I think, at least from my perspective.
When we did those shows, to have our kids witness their dads as cool rock stars and how you all respond to us and pictures, and that was cool to have the kids witness that, because that's what we lived. To think that we could do that for 30 years. We haven't done it as successfully as some of our friends that are still playing music, like Rob with Matchbox and Emerson with Tonic. But we've created our own little bit of history, and it's a big part of Milwaukee music, and we're proud. We never thought we'd do it like Dayan said. We were unintentional rock stars. We didn't plan on doing it, but we love each other and we love you all, and you all like the music that we write, so we just keep writing it.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, those two shows, the 30th shows, were a very humbling experience, because when you're, through that whole 30-year trajectory, you're trying to take everything in that's happening, and half the time you're lost in your head, and as Gordy said, half the time you're high or you drank too much, and so there's an incredible amount of fog. And when you look back at sort of these highs and these lows, and all of a sudden we roll into these two shows at the Pabst, it blew me away, man. It's just like to see all those people out there, and then just to sort of get a sense of, fuck, man, a lot of these people have been around for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. Some of these people were at those first Celebrity Club shows, and if anybody saw us at the Unicorn, man, let us know. We'll get you backstage at the next one, just to celebrate. But it's humbling, man, and we're just we're super fortunate to, number one, we're still fortunate just to have anybody that wants to listen to us, but so incredibly fortunate to be part of something that sort of transcends us and has become this collective moment in Milwaukee time. If you're thinking 90s modern rock, Milwaukee East Side, Wisconsin, what's going on, to be part of that history, it's an awesome thing, man. And, it was never intended, but we're just so grateful that we've had that opportunity, and that even more grateful now as you get older and more appreciative of what you have and what you don't have. The fact that we could still do this and come back and play shows, and Gordy could do acoustic shows, and we could do shows together, independently on our own, it's, man, we're incredibly fortunate, man. So for that, I'll always be grateful to you guys, and the fact that you and Molly and Tom and stuff wanted to put up with all of our bullshit and do all these episodes. It's a great thing, man. So we appreciate everything, and all the people along the way, and all the people that are still hanging around to hear us wax poetic and sing melodic love songs.
With a rock edge.
With a rock edge.
With a rock edge. No, it's been a fantastic journey, and I can't thank you guys enough. It's a little bit bittersweet wrapping this up, but
I think this has been a good precursor to the next podcast, which is all about me. So I look forward to that.
Actually, it was all about Scott, but anyway.
Thank you.
Unless you guys got anything to add, I think we can wrap this up. We can stick around and talk. I mean, I'm not going anywhere. Thanks
for 30 plus years, you guys. Thanks for following us on this bizarre journey. I've always said you're not fans. You guys have become friends. It's a lot of the same people. We recognize a lot of you, so thank you.
Cheers to that, man.
All right. Well, it's the 30 more years, right?
Cheers.
Cheers.